What's going on, everybody? It's Joey Valley TCG. Hope everyone is having a good day, good week, good weekend. So today we are finally going to talk about the big I word, the invest word in One Piece TCG. I think I would apply this to all TCGs and the genre as a whole, because I'm not just buying One Piece cards, right? I do have a collection of Pokemon. I do have a collection of a little bit of Magic and a little bit of Dragon Ball and here and there, right? The idea there is to largely diversify, but it's mainly because I just love TCGs in general. But that's why I wanted to make a video. I know a lot of you guys have asked for this, so I do want to just kind of go through and talk about how I think about, whether it's investing or whether it's just keeping as part of your collection, because it is a fun hobby. And if you are rewarded on the monetary aspect of it, it just adds to it, right? I'm not saying like, guys, go line up at Walmart right now. Pokemon is dropping. Go start some fights. Definitely don't do that. I would say actively fade that. But there is a monetary aspect of the game, so I do want to talk about that and how I think about it from a investment professional, from a finance person's perspective. So anyways, first and foremost, before I do that, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I do appreciate everyone's support and your really nice comments, so thank you for that. So, all right, let's talk about this, right? So, investing, the I word, so dirty. But as you can see, a lot of games have become very, very popular, and cards could become very expensive. I guess first and foremost, if we're thinking about the game to invest your time and money into, we cannot start this off without a Charlie Munger, may he rest in peace, quote. And that quote is, "The first rule of fishing is to fish where the fish are. And the second rule of investing is to not forget the first rule." So what does that mean? Well, like if you're looking at these games, think about where the population of players are going to. It's really, really important. It works where in investing, in all parts of investing, right? That's why, people are not throwing their money into, Zimbabwe currency, right? People are actively fleeing those markets, whereas people are putting their money in the United States. They're putting their money maybe in Asia, maybe in parts of Europe. But it's making sure you are where other investors are, other players are. So if we're kind of looking just at this list, right, it's at the end of the day, if you think of where the new players are going to, it's Pokemon and it's One Piece. Yeah, Magic, but really, I've talked about this in prior videos, but if you look at, let's say, like Rudolfo from Alpha Beta Investments, if you look at his videos, like, he opened these, like, packs with these other guys, and he's just, like, super excited. And, dude, like, the average age of that video is, like, 45 to 50. Right? Like, these guys are kind of, their kids are going to college, and like, that's when the average player is that doesn't tell me that there's a whole lot of new players just plowing into the game. But if you go to like a Pokemon event, if you go to a One Piece event, right? The average age, it's like 25 to 35. Right? Like, people are still really, really young, and then you still have new players, younger kids. They're bringing their kids to these events, like especially Pokemon. That's where you think that, oh, well, the pond is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? There's so many more new fish the older fish are having younger fish babies, right? And then those babies are engaging in the hobby. So that's first and foremost a very important tenet to live by. That's why for me, most of my money is going into Pokemon. Most of my money is going into One Piece. One Piece because I just truly enjoy the hobby, and there's so many other people that like play it. And then Pokemon, it is a forever staple. Like my kids are going to play Pokemon. Like that's how that's going to work, right? So and then, obviously we can't talk about Digimon, we can't talk about Lorcana, we can't talk about, I don't know, Weiss Schwartz, Dragon Ball or Yu-Gi-Oh, but people are not really playing in those hobbies, unfortunately. That's all right. So you guys have asked for it. You're like, Joey, what are you investing into? What is the Valley TCG retirement portfolio looking like? And here it is. This is what first of all, none of this is financial advice. Do not, take this and be like, I'm going to make this allocation exactly how it is. And that's going to make me money. But this is how my portfolio is broken up into, and it is largely stocks. So if we're just kind of like rounding this whole thing out, it is largely stocks. It's international equities. It's domestic stocks, U.S. stocks. It's mostly stocks, right? I'm not plowing my paychecks into TCG just because, there's if we think about fishing where the, fish are, most people are investing in stocks. They're not investing in TCGs. So that's why this is it. I do have this tiny sliver of crypto. I use that to buy, I use my crypto mainly just to buy like Counter-Strike skins. That's about it. But largely this is stocks. I do have some cash. I did curve this out. I'm about 25% of my stock portfolio is in cash right now. I am relatively concerned about the greater economy, about the recession that may be coming. So that's why I do have this. But as you can see, I have a huge chunk of my TCG investment portfolio into sealed, and then a very small percentage into singles. So I can't say I am a singles expert by any means, even though that's what most of what this video is going to be talking about. But I do think that between singles and sealed has just a much better track record of appreciating over time. People tend to, when they get their hands on sealed, they tend to open it, right? Like I have a few booster packs in front of me right now. Maybe you guys can hear that crinkling. Maybe not. I don't know how good my video recording setup is. But these are packs, right? It's been staring at me for some time now, and I really want to open them. It's been an exercise in restraint, and these are Pure BO1 booster packs from starter decks. So I might just open these a little bit later. But the way that I think about this is that sealed, you definitely want to keep a lot more of because people will tend to open them. Population shrinks over time. You're going to have these influencers, these whatnot shippers that are going to keep consistently buying, and they're just Bandai and Pokemon, they're going to stop printing at some point, and these rare packs or these older packs are going to get rare, and that's why I do want to keep a lot more of my sealed, my collection in sealed. And at least for Pokemon, it's done exceptionally well. I think I've massively, at least this year, outperformed my stock portfolio, which has been pretty middling, if not down a little bit. Or maybe it's probably back up to positive, but like largely not so great. Whereas my Pokemon collection, which is the bulk of my sealed collection, dude, it's up like 30-40%. It is crazy. And you know, I'm using the money that I'm able to, I guess, monetize as it goes up, you know, 300-400%. I do monetize. I do think that it's the right thing to do, to kind of cash out a little bit, to buy more singles, buy more sealed, and just kind of keep it building a little bit at a time. But what makes me really happy, though, is to see a lot of my singles. And the next thing is I want to talk about is the 3 key things of investing in TCGs, in illiquid assets in general. I would say it's 3 things. It's value, right? It's the value of the card, how expensive it is. It's liquidity. So some constraints on value using liquidity, and it's how pretty it is. This is very discretionary. This is totally up to you, the eye of the beholder, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think it really just comes down to these 3 simple things. You know, for me, sealed also falls under all 3 of these, right? Like, you know, I think a PRB01 booster box or a blue bottom Romance Dawn booster box, so that would fall under all 3 of this. You know, a lot of people like to buy it, so it's more liquid. It has value. It's $1,500 a box, and to me, it's very, very pretty. So that's how simplistically I kind of want to approach this, because I think most people do approach it simplistically, but this is just a mild framework for that. So let's first talk about value, right? When it comes to singles, what am I talking about? Well, first and foremost, like, this is my collection, right? So I'm just gonna go over some of the cards in my collection that I really like. So you guys saw me, maybe you haven't, but one of the videos I have up, I did open up this. This is my first manga art. So this is a very valuable card, as you can see. It's $700 right now from CR Collect, whom I actually know very well. But so the first one, and there's only a few of these, it seems like, available. So very valuable card. It is valuable to me. It's valuable to other people. Other cards that are also valuable, you know, obviously, you know, I've talked about this card. This card is really nice looking. I do think value, it's going to go up in price. Remember when I talked about I really should buy one of these cards? It went up in price. Now it's coming back down. This Wanted poster, I think I want to pick up another copy. I think I was talking about around here. Now it's normalizing, which is a good thing. You don't want to buy at these peaks, but these are just pretty looking cards that you think other people are going to want. So very valuable cards. It's $200, you know, on average. I have the beta version of this. I absolutely love this card. Absolutely do. And then the opposite of that is you don't want to invest, you don't want to put your money into these types of cards. So the reason why, even though it's a very nice looking card, it just doesn't have value. It doesn't have a lot of people buying this card. And the thing is, at 20 something dollars, yeah, it might go up 100%. It might go up to $40. Well, with shipping, with you know, your packaging fees, TCG player, you're not going to make really any money here, right? You're going to make, you know, you're going to go up, you know, $20, but then you pay $5 for shipping, and then TCG takes 15%, so that's another like $5-6. You know, you're down. You're only making 30. You're not really making any money. You're making like $10 from this, and that's only if it doubles in price. So that's what I mean, right? Like, you want to have these higher end cards that are expensive, and achievable. Now, achievable kind of goes into this next part that I want to talk about, which is liquidity. What is liquidity? It just means that there's a lot more buyers and sellers, right? And The reason for that is because there's this very important concept in finance called the liquidity premium. So why is it a premium? Is that liquidity refers how easily an investment can be sold for cash. Now, there's a very interesting thing that's happening in TCGs that I think people don't really analyze well enough, but it's so important. So lock in, right? In TCGs, all of these cards are, I would say, relatively illiquid, right? So if you look at sales of this card, 1 a day, right? 4 a day. I guess people were really having a good time on Friday. A lot of cards sold that day, right? So it's not very liquid, and you go to shows and maybe you might sell it, maybe you won't sell it. Whereas in relative terms, like if you're, I don't know, if you're selling a share of stock, it goes like that. It's instant, right? It just immediately is sold at the price that you're being offered. Now, why that is really interesting in TCGs is that you have a lot of pockets of liquidity where cards do move up, where cards do kind of sell, right, pretty quickly. Whether it's at shows, and these high-end cards typically do have some relative speed to them. So you are selling this at the same rate that people are actually buying these cards too. So even though like prices are, let's say, kind of going up at the same time or moving down at the same time. So let's say this goes up 10% or 100%. Well, let's say, what if BOA goes up 100% too, right? If BOA, I mean, look at this movement, right? BOA went from $500 a card to $700 a card. That's a massive move. So there's a lot of liquidity. There's a lot of movement of people buying this card. And you can see this here, right? So especially in April, a lot of people bought this card. I guess it's not super liquid, but at shows, this is going to sell. People are going to buy this card. So I guess my point that I want to really make here is within liquidity premium, right? Liquidity premium meaning that the less liquid it is, the less that it's fast moving, the more money that you'll make, because investors are paying for a premium to hold onto that risk. If you can't sell this tomorrow, if you can't sell this card tomorrow, really quickly, then people will actually, you know, you'll lose a ton of money doing that, right? Because you could potentially lose a lot of money, because what could happen is, well, everyone might just say, oh, well, like I'm really freaked out about One Piece TCG, and then you can't sell this. You have to drop your price by a lot to sell this. Now, at the same time, because of that, it moves up higher over time. There's studies been done on this, but the less liquid it is, the more money you'll make. So this is why I really like this aspect of One Piece. But the thing is, you don't want it to be too illiquid. And this is one point I really want to make here is when there's just so expensive, when it's so expensive, no one is buying it. Like you can put this here, MCTCG, he could put this for a year and it might not even sell. So you don't want to play in the hyper illiquid premium spaces, because you might just, especially if you're putting substantial amounts of money into this, you're not going to make that much money. That's you might make some, you might like have to time it, but if you really need cash, you know, your baby's coming, whatever, dude, it's like, look, there's no sales for this card, right? This is a absolutely amazing card. I haven't even seen one in real life, right? So it's really hard to kind of set a price and to sell this. You might think you might be worth a lot of money holding onto a bunch of these. Well, at the end of the day, guess what? You know, if shit hits a fan, you won't be able to cash out. And that's the problem with these high-end, super high-end cards. So you really want these cards that are accessible, that are expensive, but not too expensive. So that way you can benefit from the illiquidity premium, or liquidity premium here. But then at the same time, you're able to sell if you really need the cash, and that's very important. People don't really talk about the optionality, and the reason for that, again, is or I guess not again, I haven't talked about this, but look, the typical OP collector, we're all very middle class folk, right? We're middle class, meaning you're making somewhere between $60,000 to $170,000 on a medium income for an American household. That's where most people are going to be, right? And the reason for that is because One Piece, Pokemon, these, you want more people to get into it. You're not a Ferrari, right? Where everything is super, super, super expensive, but the average collector, average collector may be wearing a turban, is what I'm trying to say, and might live in the Middle East and driving around in his multiple Ferraris, right? These sheiks that have access to a lot of money, right? That's not the average One Piece collector, but that is the average Ferrari collector, right? Since average Ferrari cars are like $200,000-$300,000, right? So that's why you really want to, again, skirt around these, skirt around and be around this middle class level, right? Middle class, expensive, where if it goes up 30%, you're still making a lot of money, right? You're scaling the aspect of shipping costs and whatnot. So anyways, moving on. The very last point that I want to make here, guys, I know I've been kind of talking about this for a while now. This is a longer video, but the very last thing is how pretty it is. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, Plato. Actually, I'm not really even sure if he said that, but I found this quote online. It's kind of believable. Maybe he did. And the reason why I want to talk about that is we can take a look at these polls, and you can look at these polls and like, this kind of makes sense, right? People really like Monkey D. Luffy. People really like Zoro. People really like Shanks and yeah, Sanji, and so the thing is, you know, I thought Nami would be a little bit higher, but she's not. She's 8th, and then you have Boa, also known as Boa Cock, on this channel at 10th, and then wow, Robin is 12th here. So we could look at this, and then we could look at the more expensive cards from every single set, and it's Nami, it's Boa, and it's Jewelry Bonnie. And then maybe you have Edward Newgate here. This is just a really nice looking card. So to be fair, there are some really nice cards, but at large, the most expensive cards, it's these cards. It's Nami and it's the Booba cards, right? And it's because we're obviously in the hobby. There's a lot of gooners. The hobby is just filled with gooners. Let's just be realistic here. And so when I say pretty, I mean the cards have to look pretty, and the beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. But the beholder itself is gooning around trying to buy these Nami cards. So that's what I'm trying to say is, when you're opening up these cards and you're like, oh man, like day one, this card is, it was like $200, right? Day one, $200. Like, do I think this is going to go up in price? You know, where Nami is wearing no skirt and a and a very revealing pair of shorts, if they can even be called that. Like, do I think this card is going to be worth more in the future? And, you know, I would say the answer should probably have been a yes. And then this Nami card, beautiful as well. And this Boa card, oh my god, so pretty. So good looking. So what I'm trying to say is, making sure that's what when you open these packs, don't sell it day one. If you see a card that looks like this, there's a very high chance that the price is going to be very high down the line. Anyways, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I hope you guys enjoyed my investment video. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed it. These are the certain things I really wanted to talk about because people have been asking me about this, and I thought it was important to kind of framework this. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys are having a good weekend, and I will talk to you guys next time.